Good morning, Commander. Today is day 412. The oxygen levels are steady at 12%. Please do not look out the starboard viewport. You are already dead. That is your voice, not a synthetic imitation, not a deep fake generated by a malfunctioning station AI trying to soothe its lone occupant with a familiar cadence. It has the exact same slight nasal hiss from your broken septum, the legacy of a rough docking procedure 3 years ago. It features the identical micropause before the word starboard, the subtle, unconscious hitch in your throat that you only notice when you listen to old recordings of your telemetry logs. It is you, but you haven't recorded an automated morning briefing since the primary communications tower collapsed 3 months ago, severing your connection to the surface and leaving you adrift in the silent, freezing belly of the station. You sit perfectly still in the pilot's chair, your skin prickling beneath the heavy, synthetic weave of your flight suit. The air inside the habitation module smells faintly of stale ozone, recycled sweat, and the sharp metallic tang of copper. Every morning at precisely 600, the station's automated public address system wakes you with the daily brief. And every morning for the last 7 days, the voice on the speaker has told you something it could not possibly know. Yesterday, your voice told you to skip the midday ration pack from Crate Bravo. You ignored it, chalking the recording up to some deeply buried, long-forgotten psychological breakdown you must have logged during your first month of isolation. An hour after consuming the nutrient gel, you were on your knees vomiting dark fluid onto the grated floor plates. The pressure seal on that specific batch had degraded, breeding an anaerobic bacteria that your onboard sensors failed to detect. The voice is never wrong, because the voice isn't a prediction, it's a memory. You stare at the digital audio console. The waveform of the morning announcement bounces in bright neon green lines across the monochromatic screen, a jagged mountain range of your own vocal frequencies. You reach out, your gloved finger hovering over the interface. You want to erase the file. You want to purge the mainframe's solid-state drive until there is nothing left but raw, unformatted static. But you can't, because to delete the voice is to lose the only map you have through the pitch-black labyrinth of the next 24 hours. The first stage of your descent into this living nightmare begins with the environmental control systems. It is now 0900. The primary life support grid begins to moan, a deep structural groan that vibrates through the soles of your boots and settles into the marrow of your bones. The ambient temperature in the command module starts to bleed away, dropping rapidly from a comfortable 22 degrees to a numbing, crystalline cold. You can see your own breath pluming into white, ghostly mists inside the cabin, the vapor condensing on the cold glass of the display screens. You pull up the environmental logs on the auxiliary terminal. The system layout shows no errors. The heaters are drawing maximum wattage from the solar arrays, yet the air continues to freeze. You open your mouth to log a manual diagnostic, but before you can speak, the green waveform on the secondary monitor shifts. A file buried deep within the archived subroutines executes itself without your input. The thermal regulators in the floorboards are not broken, your voice echoes from the overhead speaker, the tone flat, devoid of the panic currently tightening its grip around your throat. Do not waste your time unscrewing the maintenance panels. The coolant line in the ventral sector has ruptured because you forgot to clear the debris from the external intake valve. If you open the panel now, the pressurized freon will blind you. Leave the heat off. Put on your secondary thermal layer. You will need your eyes for what happens at noon. You drop the wrench. It clatters against the metal deck, the sound ringing out in the empty module like a gunshot. Your hand slowly moves to the collar of your suit, your fingers trembling as you track the logic of the message. You haven't checked the external intake valves in weeks. You didn't even know they were blocked. You look at the maintenance panel on the floor, the heavy titanium bolts glinting in the dim light. You were seconds away from unlatching it. You crawl back into the pilot's seat, pulling the heavy insulated survival cloak over your shoulders, shivering as the frost begins to feather across the edges of the control switches. You are listening to a ghost that hasn't died yet. You trace the file path of the audio clip, digging through layers of encrypted hexadecimal code, trying to find the timestamp of the recording. The metadata is a chaotic jumble of corrupted strings, but the creation date is legible. It reads, tomorrow. By 12:15, the cold has settled deep into your joints, making every movement slow, deliberate, and agonizing. The station has drifted into the shadow of the orbital body below, plunging the interior into a thick, murky twilight. The only illumination comes from the rhythmic, amber pulse of the low battery warnings on the main dashboard. The silence here is not empty. It is a heavy, physical weight that presses against your eardrums, interrupted only by the sporadic, high-pitched whine of the station's gyroscopes, trying to maintain orientation. Suddenly, a violent shudder ripples through the entire structure. The deck plates buckle slightly beneath your feet, and the sound of tearing metal echoes from the far end of the habitation ring. The emergency klaxons do not sound. The automated safety systems remain dark, paralyzed by the cold or by something far more sinister. You scramble toward the internal comms matrix, your breath coming in short, ragged gasps that fog your vision. Before you can hit the master intercom to check the pressure seals in the adjacent modules, the audio console clicks. The green line leaps to life again. The airlock in Sector 4 did not fail on its own, your voice says, sounding slightly more breathless now. The words hurried, clipped by a subtle undercurrent of dread. The pressure differential didn't cause the seal to burst. Something pulled the manual release from the outside. Do not go down the corridor to investigate. If you seal the blast doors to Sector 4, you will trap it in the engineering bay with the primary oxygen scrubbers. Leave the doors open. Let it come into the common area. It wants the heat from the main computer core. If you block its path, it will tear through the life support lines to get to it. Your hand freezes on the emergency blast door override lever. The metal is freezing to the touch, sticking to the fabric of your glove. Your heart is hammering against your ribs, a frantic, irregular rhythm that fills your ears with a dull, rushing roar. Something pulled the manual release from the outside. There is nothing outside. You are hundreds of thousands of miles away from the nearest human soul. The surface of the planet below is a barren, scorched wasteland of red dust and toxic storms. There are no operational vessels in this sector. There is nothing out there but vacuum and cosmic radiation. You back away from the lever, your eyes locked on the dark, yawning mouth of the corridor that leads to Sector 4. The darkness down that hallway seems absolute, a solid block of blackness that the dim amber emergency lights cannot penetrate. You listen, really listen. Above the hum of the gyroscopes, above the creak of the freezing hull, you hear it, a slow, rhythmic dragging sound, the wet, heavy scraping of something massive moving along the metallic floor plates, accompanied by the sharp, rhythmic scratch of something hard drawing across the rivets. It is moving away from the engineering bay. It is moving toward you, exactly as the voice said it would. It is 15:40 when the dragging sound stops directly outside the thick, reinforced bulkhead of the command module. The temperature has dropped so low now that thin sheets of ice have formed over the auxiliary displays, distorting the data into fractured, unreadable patterns of light. You are huddled in the corner of the station, your knees pulled up to your chest, your hands tucked deep into the armpits of your suit to preserve the last remnants of your body heat. The silence is absolute now. The scraping sound has ceased, replaced by a faint, rhythmic thudding against the outside of the bulkhead. It isn't a violent pounding. It is a soft, deliberate tapping, like someone knocking gently on a bedroom door, testing to see if the occupant is awake. The audio console lights up without the usual chime. The green line doesn't just bounce, it trembles, vibrating with a high-frequency distortion that makes your teeth ache. When your voice speaks this time, it is different. It is lower, hoarser, the breathing shallow and ragged, punctuated by the distinct sound of teeth chattering from the intense, biting cold. Do not look at the security monitor for the hallway. Your future self whispers from the speakers, the sound incredibly intimate, as if the voice is being breathed directly into your ear. The night vision camera is still functional. If you look at the monitor, you will see what it did to the pressure suit you left in the staging area. You will see how it altered the shape of the helmet to fit its own head. If you look, The psychological shock will cause your heart rate to exceed 140 beats per minute. That will trigger the automated sedative release in your suit's medical cuff. You cannot afford to sleep right now. If you fall asleep, you won't be awake to turn the primary power back on when the station clears the planetary shadow at 1600. Your eyes instinctively dart toward the small, flickering security monitor on the upper left bulkhead. The screen is a grainy, green-tinted wash of static, but you can make out the silhouette of the hallway. There is a shape standing right outside the door. It is tall, unnaturally elongated, its limbs bent at angles that defy human anatomy. It is wearing your backup white extravehicular mobility suit, but the fabric is stretched tight, tearing at the seams, wet with a dark, glistening fluid that reflects the infrared light of the camera. The helmet is bulbous, distended outward from the inside, the gold-tinted visor shattered into a jagged, gaping grin. You tear your eyes away from the screen, forcing your gaze down to the floor, your chest heaving as you fight the rising tide of panic. You can feel the small, hard plastic housing of the medical cuff against your left wrist. You know exactly what the voice is talking about. The suit's internal computer is programmed to administer a heavy dose of diazepam if the biometric sensors detect a prolonged panic attack. If that chemical hits your bloodstream, your eyes will grow heavy. You will drift off into a deep, dreamless sleep in a room that is currently negative 40 degrees. You will never wake up. Breathe, your voice commands from the speaker, sounding weaker now, the words trailing off into a wet, rattling cough. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds. You have to keep the heart rate down. You have to survive the next 20 minutes. If you survive until the sun hits the solar arrays, the automated perimeter grids will re-engage. The electrical arc will force it back down into the lower cargo holds. You just have to hold on. I need you to hold on, because if you don't, I won't be here tomorrow to tell you how to survive the night. You follow the instructions. You force your lungs to expand, counting the seconds in your head, staring at the frozen drop of moisture hanging motionless in the zero-gravity air, just inches from your nose. The tapping on the bulkhead grows louder, firmer, the metal beginning to flex inward under the pressure of whatever is standing on the other side. You can hear the structural rivets groaning, the seals around the door frame hissing as the vacuum of the adjacent corridor tries to bleed into your small sanctuary. The digital clock on your wrist flickers, the segments shifting with an agonizing slowness. 15:58, 15:59. The shadow of the planet begins to recede. Through the thick, multi-layered glass of the starboard viewport, a thin, blinding sliver of raw sunlight cuts through the darkness, striking the frozen consoles and turning the frost into a glittering, brilliant web of light. A deep, resonant hum echoes through the station as the main power grid reboots. The emergency amber lights snap off, replaced by the harsh, brilliant glare of the primary fluorescent tubes. From the other side of the bulkhead, a sound erupts that does not belong in the cold vocabulary of engineering. It is a high-pitched metallic shriek, a sound like iron tearing against iron, mixed with a wet, gurgling howl that vibrates through the hull plates. You hear the heavy, frantic scraping of the creature as it is thrown backward by the high-voltage discharge of the automated perimeter grid. The wet, sliding sounds move away rapidly, retreating down the corridor of Sector 4, deeper into the dark, unpressurized belly of the ship, until the noise fades completely into the distance. The station settles into a steady, normal operating rhythm. The heaters kick in with a low, rushing sigh, and the ambient temperature immediately begins to rise, the frost on the screens melting into long, weeping streaks of water. You let out a long, shuddering breath, your muscles uncoiling from the tight knot of tension they've been locked in for hours. You survived. The voice was right. It guided you through the dark step by step, saving you from the Freon, the blast doors, and your own biomed cuff. You slowly stand up from the corner, your limbs stiff and aching from the cold. You walk over to the main audio console, your fingers tracing the edges of the interface. The green waveform of the morning brief has flattened out, the file having reached its conclusion. You feel a strange, hollow sense of gratitude washing over you. The future version of you is looking out for you. You are not alone out here. You have yourself. Then your eyes catch the system log at the bottom of the screen. The audio console shows a history of all files executed today. There is the morning log from 0600. There is the environmental warning from 900. There is the airlock brief from 1215. And there is the panic management log from 1540. But as you look closer at the timestamps, you notice something that causes the blood in your veins to turn to ice. The files were not pre-recorded. They were not stored in an encrypted subroutine from tomorrow. The master lock on the command module bulkhead suddenly clicks, the heavy titanium deadbolts sliding back into the frame one by one.